It is Tuesday afternoon at the time of recording this video, which means I think it is day number 5 for the protests in LA. And what started as peaceful protests on Friday have only grown more chaotic because Donald Trump and his administration decided it would be a good idea to illegally invoke a law to send the National Guard troops to the streets of LA. So on late Saturday, they called up 2,000 troops without any resources, without a place to sleep. They then doubled that number to 4,000. And then on Monday decided it would be a real good idea to deploy the active duty military as well. And the crazy part about the whole thing is that Donald Trump, he's just living in a fantasy land. He is not attached to reality. And every time he gets in front of that camera and he tries to answer questions about what is going on in LA, you can clearly see he has no idea what is going on. So let's go ahead and take a look at the press conference or the little Oval Office meeting he did on Tuesday. Here he is being asked about when he might determine that this is an insurrection. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money. And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb, and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite and concrete to other people, and they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people, and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
What is he talking about? Fox News has tainted his brain. He might have seen some one-off story about one guy with a hammer who braked off a chunk of something and then threw it. But this is not a wide-scale issue. As we've already said, 99.99% of these protests have remained peaceful. There are pockets of violence here and there. There are opportunistic idiots who are engaging in violence for other reasons. But we now have a president of the United States who is trying to say that all of these agitators, they're just a whole bunch of paid protesters. Is he ever going to provide any evidence of that at all? Or is he just going to continue to make up shit and try to sell it to the American people? I mean, this is absolutely wild. They created a story about widespread violence. They said that the police didn't have anything under control, and then they used that as a pretense to send in the military to go to war with the city of LA. I mean, it is absolutely insane. Here he is blaming Gavin Newsom for death and potential death.
The governor should be able to handle it. And frankly, if they can handle it, the aftermath, then maybe they shouldn't be governor.
And Mr. President, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
A day ago. Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave them a little additional help, Los Angeles would be burning right now. Los Angeles would be not a lot different than what you saw take place in California and Los Angeles just a little while ago.
So now we have the President of the United States who is trying to compare peaceful protests that were clearly under control to wildfires that ravaged LA County. Is that what I'm getting here? I mean, he is so, profoundly stupid that he would even make that type of comparison. And like we continue to say, everything was under control. Gavin Newsom came out and said, we don't need your help. The police in LA said, we've got things under control. Everybody can still access services exactly as they need to. But then Donald Trump decided that he was going to pour gas on the fire, and now things are only devolving into a more chaotic landscape because Donald Trump wants to put on a show for the American people. This is what authoritarians do. He is trying to provoke images of violence so he can claim more power. This is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. So I will continue to say, if you're out there protesting, please, please, please remain peaceful. We don't need to give these idiots any reason to start inflicting violence against us because, you know what? They might just do it anyways, and if you're standing there peacefully, we are going to win over hearts and minds that way. When we engage in violence, when people are setting cars on fire and all this other crap, it does not do any good for what we are fighting for here. So, here he is talking about LA being under siege. That's why he had to send in the troops, guys.
A safe area. We have Los Angeles was under siege until we got there. The police were unable to handle it. You can speak to the chief. He said it on television 3 nights ago. He said, this is more than we can handle. They said that. And the LA police, I know a lot of the police in LA, they're good, they're great people, but they're given instructions not to do this, not to do that. But in this case, they were trying their best. They were not able to handle it. It was out of control. When we got there, and you have to remember, I've been here before, and I went right by every rule, and I waited for governors to say, send in the National Guard. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it, and they just wouldn't do it. It kept.
Donald Trump is just full of shit. He is lying to the American people. He tries to say that LA, the police chief came out 3 days ago and said that things were out of control and they needed some help. That is just a lie. Again, Gavin Newsom, the city of Los Angeles police, the mayor of Los Angeles, all came out and said, everything is under control. We have enough resources to handle the very few pockets of violence that we are currently seeing. Please do not send the National Guard. And Donald Trump, because he is this wannabe authoritarian, decided to invoke this law illegally to send in the troops anyway. And since then, we have only started to see things get more chaotic because Donald Trump is inflaming tensions. He is making matters worse by trying to strong-arm California. This is his doing. And he is trying to sell this story that everything was out of control. So hopefully the American people believe that, oh, actually, the National Guard probably should have been sent out. Oh, actually, active duty Marines, we definitely need them on the streets of LA, cracking skulls, cracking the American people's skulls, because things were just out of control. Don't let him lie to you. He is full of shit. He is not attached to reality. He is living in his own fantasy land. It is absolutely wild. He is asked about when troops, or how long the troops will need to be there. When he invoked the law, that said, I think it set out for 60 days, but listen to what he says here.
National Guard be in California indefinitely. How long will they be there until you think?
Until there's no danger. It's easy. Look, it's common sense. You ask me that question. When there's no danger, they'll leave. You would have had a horrible situation had I not sent them in. Horrible.
Again, here's Donald Trump's grandiose understanding of himself. He's the big, bad, tough guy. He's the wannabe authoritarian. He's the wannabe king. He's the wannabe autocrat. And if I hadn't stepped up and done something, guys, things would have been out of control. Would have been horrible. So you better be thanking me because I did the right thing here. I sent in the troops regardless of what Gavin Newsom had to say, regardless of what Karen Bass had to say, regardless of what the LA police had to say, because I know what is best for you. That is what he is trying to say here. Again, he's just an idiot. He is not attached to reality. He's an adult old man who is living in a fantasy land. Here he is threatening further ICE raids in blue cities across the country.
Mr. President, these protests obviously started in reaction to these large-scale ICE operations in Los Angeles. Should people expect to see similar operations in the rest of the country?
Yeah.
And will similar protests see similar response?
As you know, we're moving murderers out of our country that were put here by Biden or the auto pen. The auto pen really did. I mean, the people, whether it's Lisa Monaco or whoever operated the auto pen, these are criminals. The people are criminals that allowed these criminals into our country.
It's the auto pen, guys. It's Biden's auto pen. He let in millions of criminals, and that's who we're getting out of the country. It was the auto pen, guys. Don't forget auto pen. What a fucking idiot. Biden and his administration should have tamped down on the border sooner, but they were not letting in millions upon millions of people. The millions of people who came here were engaged in our legal process to come into our country legally, and that is what they did. Biden wasn't just allowing the borders to be open, but Donald Trump and his administration tried to continue to sell that lie. And here he is threatening that these ICE raids, they're going to continue. And you know what? The American people have every right to be upset with what ICE is doing. We are seeing a Gestapo-like agency rolling around to different cities. They are terrorizing communities. They're hiding outside of courthouses. And when an immigrant comes to court to engage in our legal process, they hide in the bushes and wait till they're done. And then they snatch them off the streets afterwards. I mean, they are terrorizing communities. They are terrorizing people. And the American people don't like what they see. It's that simple. When we've got a masked agency rolling around to different streets, ripping families apart, deporting children who are American citizens, sending people off to gulags down in El Salvador, you best be damn sure the American people are going to stand up and say, hey, this should not be going on in my country. And they have every right to be out there to peacefully protest. And that is exactly what they did in LA late last week, right? Everybody started to protest. Like, we don't like this. We don't like this stuff going on in our city. And yes, like I keep on saying, he had a few idiots here and there that were doing dumb shit that was under control, that the police had a handle on. And then Donald Trump used those instances of violence that he saw on replay on Fox News to send in the military to police the streets of LA. It is absolutely wild. He then goes on to warn against people who are going to be protesting his dictatorial parade.
Celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protest that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
They hate our country, guys. I haven't even heard about a protest, but if you do protest, guys, well, you're going to be met with real heavy force because they hate our country, guys. I mean, what an idiot. Of course, he has probably heard of the No Kings protests, and now he's threatening the people who show up for that protest that you're going to be met with some much-needed force. You can't protest me and my dictatorial parade on my birthday, or else we might start cracking skulls. That is what the President of the United States is currently doing. Apparently forgetting all about the First Amendment and how we have the right to assemble, how we have a right to redress our government, how we have a right to protest peacefully. But he's saying, no, no, no. If you go against me on No King's Day, which is June 14th, by the way, everybody should be involved in a protest near you on June 14th, No King's protest. If you're involved in one of those, well, then you must hate the country, you must be against me, and therefore we are going to shut you down. President of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, the wannabe dictator of the United States, the guy who wants to be a king, the guy who is engaged in all of this fascist nonsense, who is sending military troops to police American citizens based on a faulty pretense of these so-called riots or this so-called violence. We have an adult old man as president who is currently experiencing cognitive decline. He has clearly detached himself from reality. He is living in his own MAGA conspiracy bubble, and he is making decisions based on those conspiracies to grab more power for his authoritarian takeover. That is what we are currently seeing here, guys. I'll leave it there. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders all of this fascist nonsense for Donald Trump on a daily basis. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see how all of these protests kind of got started and how they kind of escalated over the weekend, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. It's kind of a good jumping off point. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.